Hi Diana, I'm taking a look at your Ancestor project. So a few things just about formatting, etc. So some like mechanical things. Your voice is very quiet on the slides, so you might want to. I'm not say like if I listen to this. I don't know if you can hear it. Let's see. So even when I have my speakers up at a decent level. See, it's still really quiet. So you're going to want to, bring some of that up. Your voice. I don't know if you're too far from the speaker or in the microphone, or you're not projecting, but a little louder. Okay. So overall, okay. And another like sort of technical thing is that your slides, though interesting to look at, are very well. They're varied. So we've got like this blue splash. And then we've got this one with just Rousseau and the music. And then this one, which kind of has maybe like the same kind of look as the splash with the picture on the inside, which is fine. But then we have this, and then this one, again, the splash maybe works. But then we've got this one, which doesn't seem to go with it. I feel like there's an inconsistency, because like the splash has a sort of indistinct edge to it, and then you've got these that are like really squared off, and it's very off-putting when you're going through a presentation and it seems disjointed. So even the images in a presentation, the way the background of your slides, all of those things should be consistent. So whether it's a consistent theme, so like if it's this splash thing, and then you have the splash thing here, and the splash thing here, and the same here, that's fine. Or if you're looking for something more like this, then stick with something more like that. Not that you couldn't have this, because again, it's squared off, or this one with the square, fine. But some consistency in whatever it is you're choosing to use in the background. But also, you want to think about, does what I'm using in the background or the theme that I'm using for my slides make sense with my topic? So did Rousseau believe that education was sort of this in like jagged edged thing, or is he saying this education needs to be something very specific? If he's saying education needs to be something very specific, then maybe that is not the best background to you. You see what I'm saying? Make sure that it makes sense for what it is you're talking about. Okay. We don't really need to know so much the fact that he has composed some music. What we really need to know is like what were his what were his beliefs? Like what did he write about? What was his scholarship about? And specifically then on education. Something else with this is that I feel like you kind of jump back and forth between talking about the ancestor and giving the analysis of what's happening. Also take out anything like I can imagine a young girl. This should not be in first person. I believe that this is strong connection. Again, take all the first person out. This is, 300 level scholarly academic presentation, so make sure that it's at that level, not that sort of casual tone. So let's see. So here, you're giving more information about Rousseau. And then here's more information about Rousseau. So all of this, you've got the stages of development. So I'm not sure why you've even brought Shelley in yet. Really make sure that you keep the project in the order that it's listed. So give all the background information, give all the information about the ancestor, about Rousseau, and especially about Rousseau's views on education, all together. Then prove to us that Mary Shelley would have been exposed to Rousseau's writings, or at least, that most likely she was exposed to Rousseau's writings, though we know that she was. also is Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Is French. So, okay, just, you know, for pronunciation purposes. Okay. And then you don't have all your narration written out. Then here you introduce Mary Wollstonecraft. Shelley... and the novel. And I'm confused by this section here.
I think one of the opposite effects that Rousseau had on Mary Shelley.
Okay, so you don't even have everything that you're narrating is not written down. You have some of it. I'm listening to it.
In Rousseau's book, Emile, he had a fictitious character, Sophie, that was supposed to be the wife to Emile. This character was submissive, was supportive, was the caretaker of the home.
Okay, so again, make sure everything's written out in your notes. As you're identifying these connections, hold on just one sec. Someone's here. Sorry, someone was at my office. Okay, so some of the stuff you have here at the end isn't quite fitting with what the assignment is asking for, which is to identify specific things in the novel that could have been influenced by Rousseau's writing. So this slide here, when I go through all the audio with it, you're talking about how Mary Shelley may not have liked what Rousseau had to say about educating women. And if you want to talk about that, that's fine. But instead of talking about her so much, what you want to be doing is thinking about what happened in the novel that is Mary's response to this. So pick out something about Elizabeth or Justine or the scenes with the cottagers, right? Think about those types of things. Who are the female characters? And what is it that she says? And so, the female characters that are there, the ones who are, submissive characters, especially Justine and Elizabeth, and even, Victor's mother, who died young, when Victor was young, who do fulfill these gender roles that Rousseau says they should fulfill, all come to miserable ends, right? So, there's her commentary on that. So that's the type of analysis that I'm looking for. And then you talk about, which one is it? Where was it? Oh, here. You talk about the difference between educating males and females, yet most everything you talk about in here is about the, if there was a child born that was actually the size of a man, what would it be like? That's not what this is about or what this is about, and so it's very confusing. I agree with you that this is a big part of what influenced her, right? What would it be like if you had a child that was the size of a man? But she goes even further with it and says, okay, what would it be like if not only it was the size of a man, but also was hideous, right? Why is she including this idea? Something to really think about as far as the connections. Part of that's going to be how the creature educated himself, right, and goes through these stages. It's really interesting if you look at those stages that you talked about earlier, and then you look at how the creature starts to develop, and he does it on his own. These are the connections you should be talking about very specifically. So I feel like you've kind of picked out some things that sort of make sense, but you need to just say, okay, these are the, pick 3 things. These are the 3 things I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about the lack of education of like true education of women, or these, gender role education of women. You're going to talk about, I don't know, a child being born the size of a man, and then you're going to talk about the stages of development, of educational development. Find those parallels. Find something in the book that is going to say, here you can see how she's either pushing back against it or she's saying, yeah, let's take a look at this. How would that work if? And talk about that in that way, okay? Posted a video in the announcements that talks about this project, the 3 different pieces of it, how they should be developed. I mean, I know I talk about that when I introduce the project to you guys, but then also just sort of like these are the issues that students tend to run into. So that video is also in the announcements. If you have questions about this video or want any additional assistance with this, like you want to meet with me after you revise this, feel free to do so. Just make sure you make an appointment.